Hey, babe, let's go out to Iowa today.
Ooh, so what's in Iowa?
Well, we're going to go to the prairies of Iowa.
That makes sense. I feel like there's a lot of prairies in Iowa.
Yes, we're going to talk about a little colony that was started way back in 1714, and they've basically been acting as a communal village since then.
That's really cool.
Where are we taking everybody?
We're going to the Amana Colonies in Iowa.
Put your seatbelts on.
Here we go.
Did you know that 46 million Americans plan to take an RV trip in the next 12 months? 90% of recreational vehicle owners take 3 or more mini vacations every year. Welcome to the RV Destinations Podcast. If it's RV travel, we're talking about it. From campgrounds to museums to national and state parks, kayaking and hiking opportunities. One of the most fun and pleasurable things you can do is just hit the road. So be ready to be inspired. Welcome in to the RV Destinations Podcast. Now your host, President Randy Beheimer and Editor-in-Chief, Caly Beheimer.
Hello, and welcome to the RV Destinations Podcast. This is the podcast series where we talk everything about RV destinations all across the United States and Canada. I am Caly Beheimer, Editor-in-Chief of RV Destinations Magazine, here with the feeling the under the weather, honey.
Yes, I am.
You are. I'm here with Randy Beheimer. I know.
Yeah. I've been fighting off this cold all week, and yesterday was the worst. Today I'm feeling a little bit better.
Yes.
But I'm losing my voice. It's a terrible day to record a podcast.
It is, but it could be a good day for other people in the house.
Could be a good day for all our listeners to not have to listen to me today.
Could maybe be.
I'll try to not interject much because my voice might actually squeak or break or
that
something.
would be cute. It would be like pubescent Randy all over again. Little eat.
Yeah, that's right. It might.
It might. Well, on with us today, we have Carrie Hanrahan. Hi, Carrie. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. I am great. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, we
welcome
always
back to the show.
Yeah, we love having you on the show. You always do such a great job. I've already read through the top 10, and I'm going to say it to Randy. He's going to look at me and go, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. I want to go here.
She said that 3 times this week. We've recorded 3 podcasts this week.
I want to go to these places. Yeah. It does its job. I'm like, dang. We're getting ready to go full time. We have lots of places to visit now.
I'll take you to Iowa. We're gonna scratch India.
No.
You gotta scratch something.
No, sir. That's not how this relationship works.
Baby, we don't have enough life left to travel to all the places you want to go.
Linda, we need to figure this out.
Okay. All right. But today we're talking about where?
The Amana Colonies. I had to write it phonetically there. Because I was afraid because I want to say Amana, but it's not Amana.
I want to say Amana too. So, Carrie, where is it geographically speaking in Iowa? So we know where Forest City, Iowa is because we go there all the time.
For Winnebago.
Right. Yeah, it's the kind of central eastern portion of Iowa, about 25 minutes from Cedar Rapids.
Okay.
I'm seeing it now.
I'm pulling it up on a map because I am so geographically challenged, which is comical.
Yeah, so it's kind of in between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, but a little bit further west, both of them. So, okay. And then how long ago did you travel there?
It's probably about a month ago, I think. It was in April that I was there, and I was actually in Cedar Rapids with my husband. He was traveling for work, so I decided to join up with him and explore Cedar Rapids, but I knew Amana Colonies is somewhere that I have always wanted to go. Growing up in the Midwest, I just assumed I knew everything about the Amana Colonies, and I knew pretty much nothing. So it was a great spot to get down to because I learned a lot, and it is just a super quaint, serene, beautiful area to visit.
Now I know you're kind of like me. You're a history buff, and here I am talking more than I wanted to, but I'm going to interject as I have questions. So you're a history buff, so I'm assuming it's the historical nature of the colonies that drew you to the location. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially in the Midwest, there's so many immigrants and everything that have come to the area. Cedar Rapids was a reason actually I was there, because of my history. I'm Czechoslovakian, and there's a museum there of that. And so I knew that the Amana Colonies was a German immigrant area. They came here from Germany obviously years ago in the 1700s. Their religious persecution began. Their beliefs were different than what was allowed technically in Germany. And so they wandered to different areas trying to find where they could be comfortable. And after hundreds of years, finally discovered that they needed to leave. And they ended up in New York, of all places.
Wow.
And were there for, a while, and then discovered that they really just needed more land. They were a farming community, and they needed more space and away from the city. It was not their type of place to live. So they ended up, going west, and Iowa turned into the promised land for them. The farmland's incredible there. It's beautiful, and it just fit them perfectly. So they started off building Amana, the main village community that was there, and over time built kind of a loop area, because with a communal style of living, it is made so that they shared everything. They all have their own homes, but they all farm the land together. They worked in either a factory or a kitchen or something, and they just supported each other that way. So there weren't individual incomes. You worked for the community, and the community supported you and supplied you with what you needed.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it says their biggest business was farming, production of wool, calico, clockmaking, brewing. Yes, they did drink, and well-crafted furniture and farm tools.
That's really cool. So I'm looking at the map, Carrie. So this would be like kind of the circle you're talking about. Is that like East Amana, Middle Amana, High Amana, West Amana, South Amana, and then over to Homestead, kind of that loop?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And the reason it was done that way is the communities were only a mile or two apart, so that they could work the farm fields and work towards each other.
Okay.
So that it was, everything stayed connected and close, and it was easy, to support each community that way, without them being too far away. The only one that is kind of like not, I have a little map.
Yeah, I love
Very
it.
nice.
On that loop, East Amana is probably the only one today that is, it does an oval loop. They're kind of off on the side a little bit. And it's also the one that is, it's very quiet. There's no little shops or anything kind of in that area. So even though it is one of the 7, it's probably the quietest of the areas.
Okay.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm reading more about the history here, and it is very fascinating. So they broke away from the Lutheran Church in 1714, and they moved to Ronenberry Castle in central Germany. They still felt like they couldn't live very happy and productive life there, so they left Germany between the years of 1843 and 1844 and arrived in Buffalo, as Carrie said. And they lived in Buffalo for a few years, and then in 1855 is when they finally moved out to Iowa. And it says a communal way of life ended in 1932 in Iowa. So
wow, so it went on all the way up to 1932.
Yeah.
Very, very
And it's interesting because in 1932, that's the time, the Great Depression, and there was a lot of factors at that time. And they also were discovering that there was becoming a little more dissatisfaction between their younger people that were there, and they didn't want to lose, the kids moving away and everything. So they decided to dissolve their communal way of life. But by doing so, they created what was called the Amana Society, Inc. And that is almost kind of like a shareholder type corporation. So they still are able to keep within their group, the businesses and everything there, and still supply a lot for their members that are there. So even though the communal way of life is gone, it still almost kind of feels the same.
That's amazing. It sounds very much like the Amish, kind of creating their own community. and supporting one another within that community. And that's incredible to me. I had no idea. I didn't even know that this existed. That is so cool. I really want to go here.
Yeah, that was a great overview, and I'm glad we did the overview. We don't normally do that, but because Caly and I had never heard of this until you said, hey, I've got this article at Top 10.
And I was like, let's do that one.
Yeah. But, well, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of content in the magazine or the podcast of the Midwest.
Right.
And I kind of charged Carrie with that a little bit, like, hey, is there any place that you have in the Midwest? And she brought this up. I'm like, hey, that sounds great. I've never heard of it, but let's do it.
Yeah, that's incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, very. We want to do, so I don't have top facts. What I do is I've got seven historical facts, so these aren't fun facts.
Okay.
The history of the Amana Colony is one of the largest, longest-lived communal societies, which began in 1714 in the villages of Germany and continued to live on the Iowa prairie, which we already talked about that. And I am losing my voice again, so forgive me. The Amana Colonies are not and have never been Amish. A lot of people, I guess, confuse them with the Amish, and they are not Amish. There are 6 villages in the Amana Colonies.
Amana. I know. I do the same thing.
I've been calling it Amana the whole time, and I've got to reteach my brain. Amana Colonies. There are 6 villages in Amana Colonies. The 6 villages are Amana, East Amana, West Amana, South Amana, High Amana, and Middle Amana, which I think you just said a minute ago.
I did.
So those are the different colonies. All meals were eaten in communal kitchens.
Wow.
What if you didn't like the...
well, you have to.
You got to eat whatever.
You got to eat what's served, right? And you got to like your neighbors a lot.
Right. It's kind of like going to summer camp. You just don't eat.
Right. Exactly.
Everyone belonged to the same church and followed the same rules. Alcohol was not prohibited.
Oh, okay.
Men were not allowed to marry until 25 years of age.
You know, I kind of get that, though, because I'm sorry, guys. Y'all are pretty immature for a very long time. You know?
So general stores were not only a place that sold goods, but they were also a very popular place to meet and talk with your friends.
Oh,
Let's go down to the general store and see what Harry's doing.
Well, they still do that here in town. It's so fun. You can go into Deaton's, which is our local kind of like little market and general store. All the older men in the community are there in the mornings drinking their coffee and jibber-jabbering away.
Yep, and because they are German, they have a lot of annual festivals. Oktoberfest, and they've got one at Christmas, Thanksgiving, the Wurst, W-U-R-S-T, Wurst Festival of Sausages, Colonies in Bloom, a bunch of different festivals. So that's really
really cool.
That's really about it here. And I'm pulling all those out of a big article, so I'm trying to read fast.
Okay.
Anyway, so my job's done. I'll be quiet now.
Okay, well, let's dig into this because this sounds so cool, and I cannot wait to hear all the things to do because, I mean, there's quite a bit. And number 10 is starting with antique shopping. And there are 5 antique stores in Amana. And now my next question to you I guess I should have asked this before, Carrie, is the stuff that you're writing about, is this covering that whole circle or is it just that one main downtown area?
Yeah, that's the one thing with the way the colonies are. Amana is the original and definitely the what I'm going to say the most touristy.
Okay.
In the fact that the buildings are all still original. I mean, you still feel like you're walking into Amana of 1885.
Wow.
But obviously, as tourism has grown, so have the shops and everything that's within those. So the majority of things are in Amana. I will mention occasionally things that are off in some of the other ones, but it's pretty limited. Most of the other communities are still just very quiet, very serene, and have just what they had all those years ago.
Okay, so that makes sense. So then number 10 is antique shopping. So in the little town of Amana, you said there's 5 antique stores. That is incredible.
It is. As I say, I used to really be into antiques until I discovered that I have nowhere to put anything anymore. But I love wandering in them. And so having so many, in that concentrated little area was just a lot of fun because there's always so many things in there that I'm looking at going, I wonder what that is.
Right. It's so true. Yes. Because we've got, antique stores around here, and I will drag Randy to sometimes. He does enjoy it. But yeah, we'll look at stuff. We're like, what is that?
Well, and I would imagine they've got a lot of stuff from their roots in Germany too. There's a lot of antiques that are surrounded by, German culture and stuff like that. I would assume, maybe not.
Yeah, no, and it was fun. And pretty much, anywhere you go in any of those little shops, if you're talking to somebody, they usually can tell you what that thing was or what it was used for. But no, if you like antique and antiquing, it's a perfect spot for you.
Oh, that is so fun. And then once you're done antiquing and you've worked up a appetite for a good drink, okay, so number 9, places to grab a drink. Wow. So there are 4 wineries, a brewery, and multiple coffee shops. So did you have a personal favorite out of all of these?
Okay, so I had coffee, beer, and wine.
Perfect. Right.
It's a fulfilled day.
Right. It's a good day.
It was. I started at the Amana Colonies bakery in the morning. Got myself a great little coffee there and a really good scone. And if you like anything else, there were tons of little goodies there. But that was great. There's in kind of like with the little visitor center area, there's another little coffee shop that you can grab a coffee from there. So there's a couple of places to start your morning off. Lunchtime, started getting a little hungry. So I wandered to, and I think you say it, Brauhaus, Brau house. There's also the Millstream Brewing Company. So there's actually 2 places there. But I went to the Brauhaus and grab some lunch there. They have some great German beers that are there. And then the Millstream Brewing Company brews their own. So you got a couple of choices that way. And then there are 4 wineries in town, which is fun. So my favorite was the Fireside Winery in the Village. And that one they have in the Village, but their main spot actually is outside of town, and I happened to drive there too and just had to check that out. So so there's great places there, locally grown grapes, majority of them use. And then the Ackerman Winery does mainly fruit wines, but they are one of the oldest wineries in Iowa.
Oh my gosh, how neat. Yeah, I've pulled some of these up. That is so cool. So I should have asked this too. How many days did you end up spending here?
I spent 2 full days.
Okay.
And mainly just because I wanted to hit so many different places, and I was technically in the off season. April is still a little early.
Yeah.
Obviously things are open, but crowds wise, it was great.
Oh, yes. Which is the perfect time of year to go.
It was. Yeah. In the summertime, I know it can get very busy. At the colonies. And so for me, it was nice because I actually was able to talk to some of the locals and everything too. It was just, it made it a little easier. But I spent 2 full days just because I wanted to really try to get to as much as I could.
That's so cool.
I read here that they do get confused a lot with the Amish, which we already spoke about. Now, what is the reason for that? Are they still in older clothes? Do they have modern amenities there? What's going on? Why is there the confusion?
I think mainly just because there are a lot of Amish communities around.
Okay.
In that whole area. Iowa has a large concentration also of Amish communities.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
So they drive cars and they have electricity and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay. No, everything is very modernized in the sense of, they have everything we do technically. It's just that everything, I don't know what the word is, but to say much more humble.
Gotcha.
It's much more simple that way. But I think that's where the confusion kind of comes from, is just because Iowa does have a lot of Amish communities within it. And so if that's what you know about Iowa, you would probably just assume that that's what the Amana Colonies is also.
And you could still see very evident the German history and culture there in the colonies?
Oh, yeah, definitely, especially when you're eating.
Sure.
You take a look at one of their menus, and I could say schnitzel.
Yes.
But there were a lot of things on those menus that I had to read the explanation just because
Is that bangers and mash? Is that English?
That's English. Bangers and mash is English.
Yeah.
Bangers and mash. Yeah, and I looked it up online too, and some of the old pictures. And they have a big, welcome in to the Amana Colonies. So the whole welcome in.
Just like that in Fredericksburg.
The welcome in.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, another German community.
Yeah, which was incredibly fascinating to learn about.
Yeah.
All right. So number 8 is let's eat. And you talked about this earlier, like the communal kitchen was kind of the heart and soul of the colonies.
Yes.
But there are restaurants today that still have that communal style eating. What were some of the ones that you've heard of or went to or recommend?
Yeah. The one thing that, because I was a little early, I was actually really bummed to miss is part of the Amana Heritage Society. There's kind of like 4 museum type buildings that they have within that you can tour. And the communal kitchen and Cooper shop, unfortunately, was next month. So in May,
Aw.
I would have been able to tour it. But what's really cool with the communal kitchen that's part of the Heritage Tour is that throughout the summer, they do traditional dinners. So you can actually book a tour and a dinner and go in and be served just like they would have been, back in the day. You join, however many people are in this group, but you're at tables and you're served community style, and they give you a whole walkthrough of everything, letting you know how everything happened and how it went. So I would highly recommend, just because what I've read about it, it sounded amazing. But if you're there in off time like I was, or if you don't have time for that, there's 2 spots within Amana, the Oxyoke Inn and the Runberg Restaurant, and both of those will serve family style type communal, or if you're single like me, they'll just serve you a plate. But the Roenberg Restaurant is actually in an original communal kitchen.
Oh, neat.
So you can still get that feel for what it was like then, when they did that. So those are the 2 main that are still in that kind of style. There's, a few other places that you can eat, but if you're actually trying to get more of that feel of what the community is like, those would be ones that would definitely be recommended.
That is so fun. We've had a couple of similar-ish dining experiences. Like when we were in China, I ate, like, they would set up huge circular tables with a massive lazy Susan in the middle.
The Peking duck.
Well, outside of that too, there were other restaurants that we ate at that were like that, and it was just like this big community meal for everybody. And then it wasn't really a community meal, but we were in Paris. And we ate at this restaurant at this really long table, and they sit you across from one another.
Oh, I hated that.
And then, but you're shoulder to shoulder with everybody else that, you don't know. You're ordering on your own, but you're literally eating, with a bunch of people you don't know.
Yeah, I got shoved between all these people. And Europeans, they're tiny little people. And these chairs are tiny, the table's tiny.
And then there's Randy.
And I'm just like this. My shoulders are oh. And Cally's like, I'm having so much fun. And I'm like, I can't wait to get out of here. It was terrible. She said the veal was good, so I guess it was all.
Oh, the veal was incredible. No, it was the duck, actually.
Duck,
It was the duck.
that's what it was. It was duck.
Oh, the Chez Papas in Paris the duck was outstanding. Very cool. So number 7 is the Amana Meat Shop and Smokehouse. This is really neat. So I'm just assuming it's their local smoke shop, smokehouse and shop. And so what kind of meats are in there?
Oh my gosh. So literally, I was drawn there by my nose.
Wow.
I'm literally walking, in Amana at all these different spots, and I can smell this place. And it was like, okay, I've got to find it, because it's not on the main road.
Oh.
So I kind of did off around the corner, and I could see it tucked back in a corner of the village. And yeah, it's incredible. Now, they obviously, again, because of this communal lifestyle, the meat shop Smokehouse provided all the meat for all the villagers.
Wow.
And everything. So, you still walk in there today. It's the original place. That's super cool to see. And the array of goodies in there was unbelievable. You have all your wursts, your your bratwursts and all the different
Mm-hmm.
things that way, hams and jerky, and they had cheeses, and it was incredible. So it was case after case of different things that you could choose. And so what was kind of fun is, there's a campground nearby, if you're staying there, you can pick up your dinner.
Yeah, which is fabulous. And I pulled up some pictures. Oh my gosh, you're right. Like I'm looking at pictures of their shop and just cases and cases of meats and cheeses and sausages and ooh, look at that. Oh, caramel corn nuggets. Okay, that sounds amazing. And that's there at the meat shop. I mean, there's just everything. It looks incredible. And you're right. What a great idea. I mean, just stop by here and, for RVers, we have that luxury of having an entire kitchen, on wheels with us. And, we've got a residential size fridge and plenty of space for all the meats.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I love it.
It's absolutely delicious. And I was lucky enough to actually have one when I ate my lunch. I actually had a bratwurst, and it was incredible.
Nice. Oh, babe, I want to go.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. Now, I have to say, you should be glad that I want to go to all these places instead of getting off the podcast, be like, we're never going there. Right? All right. Number 6 is community churches. And it sounds like there are a couple, but you talk about potentially booking a tour through the Amana Heritage Society to see a church as well. So tell us some about the churches there.
Yeah. Yeah. Each village had its own church. And the one that is part of the Amana Heritage Society is actually in the community of Homestead. Now, Homestead, when Randy was talking earlier and he said there were 6 villages, there actually are 7. But the reason that Homestead is a little bit different is that one was kind of incorporated into the colonies later. That's where that's where the railroad was.
Oh, okay.
And so they were able to incorporate Homestead into the colonies, and then that became, the 7th colony. And that is actually where the Homestead Church is at, that is part of the Heritage Society. So you can go there and do a tour, and they will explain, everything about the religion and the churches. The churches are huge. For considering the size of the colonies, each one, the churches are very large. They're very simple. They're all a brick building. Honestly, if you didn't know they were a church, you wouldn't know they were a church. And inside, it literally, nothing is adorned. There's no stained glass. There's no crosses. It's just a plain room with wooden benches. But it's, it was their spot. They would, I believe that they went to church. I believe it was 11 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, say 11 times a week. And the church was styled where men sat on one side, women sat on the other. And the elders were in the front. And it was just a very humbling, they were just very simple people, and that is how they celebrated even in their churches. So I think that it's very fascinating to learn more about the religion, and since obviously that was central to their entire identity. But yeah, the community church in Homestead was beautiful. And it just was, I think it's just an experience for people to see that different type of culture and see where people have come from.
That is so neat. So I just popped onto their website, and I love that the community is still such plays a huge role today. So I just popped onto the Amana Heritage Society website, and upcoming on June 7th is a big communal meal. So at 5 p.m., you can join them for an authentic dinner at the Communal Kitchen Museum. And I love that. Like, hey, come on over. We're just join the gang. We're all going to sit around and have a big old communal meal. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I should mention that too. Even with the churches, you are welcome to join into one of their services, and they do them both in English and in German.
Oh wow, that is so neat. That's so neat. I love that that type of a community, like the Amish, though different, as we have learned, is still surviving and thriving. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
So, babe, you remember every time we slept in the RV, you and I both were complaining about shoulder and back pains. Well, you went out there and found us a great mattress.
I did. I went to rvmattress.com by Brooklyn Bedding because their mattresses are known to be top of the line for comfort and quality. Plus, they're shipped to your door for FREE free. What I love about their mattresses is they're totally customizable, offering different firmness options, heights, and dimensions.
So you picked out the absolutely perfect RV mattress for us. So what were you looking for?
Well, first, one, to fit the RV, which was a king size. And then two, it had to be comfortable. I sleep really hot, so I had to find something that was going to keep me nice and cool while good for both of us being side sleepers.
So again, what mattress did we get? I still don't even know what mattress we got.
Oh, I got us the signature hybrid with the cooling cloud pillow top.
So not only was the mattress extremely comfortable, I noticed after 2 days that my shoulders stopped hurting, both shoulders.
And I was sleeping a lot cooler, which is incredibly impressive because I sleep so hot at night.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Now, don't they have a great warranty?
They've got a great warranty, a 10-year warranty, plus they have a 120-night sleep trial for the mattress as well.
And what was nice is the mattress just showed up right at our front door one day.
Yes, and it's shipped for free, FREE free.
Yeah, we just absolutely love our new mattress from Brooklyn Bedding. It's incredible. And if you're a side sleeper like me and you have shoulder pains or if you have back pains, I'm telling you, you're going to absolutely love this mattress. And I have no doubt in my mind that's the mattress that made the difference because the minute we got home, my shoulders started hurting again.
So if you're tired of sleeping miserable and ready for an RV mattress upgrade, definitely get your new RV mattress by Brooklyn Bedding. Go out to rvmattress.com/RV pod to save 25% off your new mattress purchase. That's right. rvmattress.com/RV pod and save 25% off. Okay, so number 5 is head to the general stores. So there are multiple, and it sounds like it's kind of like if they don't have it at the general store, then you probably don't need it because they have everything, right?
Yes, absolutely. So there are two. There's one in Amana, and then there's one in High Amana.
Okay.
And they are extremely different from each other.
Really?
Just in this day and age. I'm sure in the past they were probably very similar. The one in Amana now is definitely more touristy. It is quite a bit larger than the one in High Amana, and it is set up more. Literally, it's got every little trinket thing that you could probably think of in there. It's fun to go through and had all these different Christmas decorations and everything. It's definitely a more touristy type environment where when you drive down to High Amana and you see the general store there, that one is walking into a museum. It is a store. You can buy things there, but it is still exactly the same as it was.
Really?
So it was really an experience to, one, see the difference between the two. And I thoroughly enjoyed the one in High Amana. I happened to actually be I went later in the day and I happened to be the only person that was in the shop at that moment. And the nice lady that was in there working that day, we just got to chatting and she grew up there.
Oh,
And
neat.
she had left and gone to the big city to college. And we got talking and I just said, why did you come back to this area? And she said, one of the main things is the church had a loud bell. And so she said the loud bell was always, if you heard it, something was wrong.
Oh.
You knew something was wrong if the bell was going. And so she said, when she got to the big city to college, she said there were all these sirens and horns and everything. And she said, I was miserable.
Yeah.
And she said, I had to come back home where I felt okay, like everything was the way it was supposed to be. And I got that more than once talking with, residents in Amana that were, grew up there and stuff. They really cherished their upbringing and the way their society was. So it was a real fascinating visit with
Yeah.
her. And then the store itself was just cute, because the one thing I did love about it, in contrast to the one in Amana, is High Amana carries more German made
Oh,
items.
neat.
And so that was a lot of fun. I picked up a couple of Christmas ornaments and some different items that way. So, it's smaller, but it definitely was more historic. And that one is actually, again, part of the Heritage Society.
Okay. Yeah, and I pulled up pictures on this too, and you're right. It is so charming and so sweet and quaint, with the stamped tin roof ceiling and just the little bins of things and items, and it's really cute looking.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable.
Awesome. Well, number 4, quilters need to perk up your ears, because there are some amazing quilting shops in Amana. There's 2 big ones, I understand, and that you're saying the fabrics that you saw there were just incredible. So tell us some about these shops.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's one shop in Amana and one in South Amana. In Amana, it is called Heritage Designs Quilting and Needlework Store. And it just huge. It's a kind of like huge barn looking building, and more fabric than I think I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Wow.
It just was overwhelming with the amount of stuff. So if you are, I'm not a quilter, but my mother-in-law was a quilter, and I know
Okay.
she would have been totally in awe of this place. And it had all kinds of fabrics, anything you would need. But then the part to me that was just cool is they just had like all these demonstration pieces
Oh, neat.
hanging up from the ceiling on the walls and everything. So even though, I wasn't into buying the fabrics, it was gorgeous to see all the work
Oh, yeah.
that was done. And then as I did my tour around to the other areas, I ended up in South Amana at Fernhill Gifts and Quilts. And that spot too, maybe it had as much, I couldn't tell, but it's more like in a old house, so it's very broken up, the interior, and all of the quilting stuff is upstairs. And oh my gosh, there are fabrics there that I have never seen anything like in my
Wow.
lifetime. The owner of the shop, her daughter is an artist, and she creates all these designs and then has them printed onto fabrics, and they
neat.
were bold and vibrant and just stunning. So if you're a quilter and that's your thing. I know actually when I was there, I think the weekend after I was there was going to be a big quilt festival
Oh,
type
cool.
thing going on, I think in Amana, and some of it maybe at the RV park. So it's a big deal. And again, as I said, it seems like a luxury, to see all those fabrics and all these things, quilts and everything made. But again, it's remembering that it was a necessity, I
Mhm.
mean, the quilts and supplied them to the community, and
Right.
again, just going right back to that communal lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think that, people need to remember too that this quilting was all hand stitched. This was before sewing machines and industry. I mean, these women sat around hand stitching these quilts, which is just and quilting is not just, sewing the 4 pieces of fabric together. It is all of that quilting stitch work around those, blocks of fabric that makes quilting just such an incredible art. It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And the one thing that would too is at the store in South Amana, the Fernhill Gifts, is there were quilts there for sale.
Oh,
So,
neat.
if you found one you fell in love with, you could take it home.
Perfect. I love that. All right. So number 3, this sounds really cool. Taking the Woolen Mill history. So is this like wool as in like sheep's wool? Like a
Yes.
wool mill? Okay. And then am I
Oh,
reading that it had burnt down at one point?
so the mill is a huge part of the history
Okay.
of this whole colony area. Wool making and the textiles was huge for them way back. They brought it over actually from Germany to New York, and then New York to Iowa. And so this mill that was built, there's a current mill. It is the oldest in Iowa.
Wow.
And still runs, still makes fabric, which was gorgeous. And it was fun because you can go into this mill and watch.
Oh,
So
cool.
you can see the machines all doing their thing, and the people putting the thread essentially onto the spools. And so it was fascinating to watch. And so, but when you're talking about the fire, so there was one building where the mill still stands, and then there were other mill buildings also, and some of those actually
Oh,
did burn.
okay.
And it was huge. I mean, it totaled it. So that portion today, and I don't remember exactly how far back they made it, but they have changed the portion that burned into a beautiful hotel.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So, and I would, if you go into the hotel, even if you're not staying there, and walk around, because there's all kinds of historic pieces of stuff from Woolen Mill. The pieces that they used to make things, and just beautiful history within that portion that is the hotel. But then go next door to the actual functioning mill, see that, and then go next door to that and go to the store.
Yes.
So the store that is next door, Warped and Woven is the name of it, but the most beautiful pieces of work I've seen. That is something that the Colonies is well known for, in no matter what craft it is. The quality is just nothing to be compared. The stuff is so beautiful and well made. It will last you a lifetime. So again, walking through that store, there are so many things calling my name.
Oh, I know. I'm looking at their website, and I'm looking through their cotton blankets, their wool blankets. They have accessories. They have a sale page, but their stuff is just beautiful, beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
it was just gorgeous. But yeah, so that whole area is kind of at the end of the village, where the mill and everything is, but it's definitely worth taking time to kind of see all the bits and parts of it.
Oh, neat. Very cool. All right, number 2 takes us furniture shopping, and I can only imagine. I mean, if everything else has been incredible, I can't imagine how spectacular the furniture is. And it looks like there's 2 different furniture shops there, and one of them you've got to tell us a little bit about Norman, because that just sounds really cool.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, there are 2. The one in Amana is called the Amana Furniture and Clock Store Shop, which is very cool, because that one, when you go in, you actually go in and you're in the store, and you immediately are furniture everywhere that is just stunningly made. And then there's another room that's full of clocks. But then if you follow I think it said tour, maybe, but there was a sign that you could go into. And actually, when you go that way, you're walking into one of the workshops.
Oh, neat.
So but they have it done there so that it's kind of like a plexiglass between you and them.
Okay.
You're kind of overlooking and watching, them constructing all this beautiful furniture. I actually think I don't know if anything there is made with nails. I don't think so. I think everything is done with wood pieces holding everything together.
Wow.
And stuff. So the craftsmanship was just incredible, and it was very fun, to watch them working on it. And again, the furniture was just stunningly beautiful. But then, yeah, when I was driving and I was in South Amana, I stopped at I'm not going to say it right. I think it's Sean's Furniture and Refinishing, and I met Norman. And this shop to me was the epitome of somebody who loves their community and is just so happy to still be part of it. I mean, he's 85 years old. He started this, and it's a furniture and repair shop. So they actually do, when you have the old chairs that have the woven seats.
Oh, yeah.
That's repair that they started doing, was repairing all those woven seats on like dining chairs and that stuff. But this place was so cool because the furniture, again, outstanding. When I went in and I just was chatting with the woman at the counter, and I just said, everything's so beautiful. And she goes, well, yeah, just go through the door and go in the shop. Just walk around.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh, okay. She goes, what's my husband and my father-in-law are in there. Just ask them anything you want. I mean, it literally was just the shop.
Wow.
And you can go in and chat with them. And it was wonderful to chat with him. He was so proud of the things that they made. And we, just discussed how times have changed. And, he's like, we have such a throwaway society
Yes.
and we don't need to be. It's like, I can fix anything, and it was so delightful and wonderful to see him and just to see the pride,
Oh, yeah.
of what they do, and the craftsmanship that they put into every piece was incredible. So yeah, if you have time to stop at their shop and you can talk to Norman, do it.
Yes. Randy and I have talked about this before. I so much appreciate those trades that people are still keeping active. Like there is a guy not too far from us up in Florence, Kentucky that has a shoe shop, and he does like shoe repair and leather repair. And he has even said, I've taken stuff to him. I'm like, you could never shut down. I'm like, you are the only one around that still does that. And he's like, I know. He's like, people just don't want to do it. Kind of the same thing. He's like, quality's not as good and people just throw stuff away instead of, bringing it to me. I can repair it.
There's no glory in being a shoe repairman.
Sadly, but there is.
Well, I'm saying that's what the kids think
that's
these
what the
days.
kids think.
They don't want to be electricians. They don't want to be plumbers. They want to all be doctors and attorneys.
No, they all want to be a social media
oh, well, that too.
influencer. Yeah,
that's a whole other.
That's a
subject.
whole nother subject,
thing.
Right?
But what I'm saying is they're a dying breed,
Right.
because you're right. We've been so efficient in America. We brought down the cost of shoes where it's cheaper and easier just to replace
throw
them.
them away because you can get them on sale with a coupon somewhere and spend $10, and then you don't feel so bad when they wear out and you throw them away.
I mean, it's the same thing with appliances. I mean, back in the day, in the 80s, you would get the refrigerator repaired.
Right.
Think about getting a refrigerator repaired now.
Oh, you don't. You just pitch it and you get a new one.
Right.
Yeah, which is so sad.
We live in a different world.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
We do.
Well, we are at number 1 already.
All right, so drum roll, please. And the number one thing to do in the Amana Colonies is?
The Amana Heritage Museum. And I am with you on this, Carrie. I feel like when you go into a new town like this is where you should start, like at their Heritage Museum, their Heritage Society, whatever it may be. So tell us some about your experience there.
Yeah, especially in Amana Colonies, I think you need to start at the Heritage Museum, just as we've talked about people's not full understanding, sometimes of the colonies, of who they really were and are. So it's a perfect spot to stop. They have a great little award-winning 22-minute video that you sit through, and it pretty much explains, the full history and goes through everything up until now. And then when it's done, the best part of it for me was, again, for me on this whole trip, it really was about the locals.
Yeah.
Talking to the locals. And so when I went in, before I saw the video, you walk just into kind of a general area, and it's just one single person sitting at the table there. And again, a resident of the area, grew up there. So she's, explained about what the video would be, and she said, go on in and watch. And then when you're done, ask any questions you want. And so where the video is actually played is an original schoolhouse.
Oh, neat.
Which is kind of cool to know. Like she said, she goes, I had Sunday school here sometimes.
Oh, how sweet.
Which I thought was super cool. So I watched the video, and then when I was done, she's like, do you have any questions? And so we just chatted for a little bit, again, just kind of about the history, of the area. Her mom actually was one of the, not mothers, but ran one of the communal kitchens.
Oh, neat.
And like she said, she remembers just everything being so pleasant as a child. She worked out in the field and she picked vegetables. She said it was just, a wonderful upbringing. So starting at the museum there is the perfect place, because, you get the background, you can talk to a local, and then from there, that building, there are two other separate areas that you go to. So you'll leave that building, you walk out, and then what was the doctor's residence is now being used as like a museum area. And so within that whole 2-building kind of area is just all kinds of different history that talks about. They have a section where what during the war, that was definitely something that the the colonists were not in favor of, so they refused to send their kids to war.
Oh,
So there's
okay.
kind of a whole area that explains that. There's a whole area that explains Amana refrigeration, which is now Whirlpool.
Okay, this is why I'm like, why does this name sound so familiar?
So in Middle Amana is the Whirlpool factory.
Ah,
It began in 1934 in Amana by one of the Amana residents. I believe it was ice boxes of some type. And then it's just over the years has, changed hands and grown. But honestly, if you didn't know Whirlpool was there, you would have no idea it's there.
yeah.
There's it's kind of just tucked off in the back. The only spot that you really could I saw it was there's a great trail, walking trail around Lily Lake. And if you do that trail, I think it's like a 3-mile trail towards the end when you're getting closer to Middle Amana, you can see the factory.
Oh, wow.
But other than that, I don't know if you'd really even realize that it's there unless you connected the name Amana to Amana refrigeration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it explains that. It just goes through all the different history and everything. So it's the perfect starting spot. I think for anybody who needs to understand more before they explore more.
Yeah.
So that's really the reason I put it as number one. I mean, obviously, you can tell I've enjoyed all parts of it. So it's a lot of hard time for me to say what's number one, but always start where, if you're lacking information, start at the museums first.
So you said you spent 2 full days there. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you feel like that was ample time, or what would you recommend to our listeners if they were going there? How many days would you recommend?
I think it kind of depends on what your goals are. A half mile from Amana is the Amana RV park. And so you can, spend your time right there. Now, unfortunately, it's not really walking distance. It's the way the road system and stuff is there. It's pretty country. So there's not really like a walking path from the RV park to the colonies.
Okay.
I actually stopped at the RV park and spoke with the young lady who is in charge there. And boy, talk about a person who has lots of goals for this RV park, because it's owned by the Amana Society, like so many of the other things.
Okay.
And she would love at some point for there to be a trolley
Yeah.
from the park to Amana. So hopefully in the future. But I would say 2 to 3 days. I mean, unless if you're going for a festival or, something that's there, it's going to be crowded anyway. For me, because it was uncrowded, it felt more lazy. I was able to take my time and kind of really just go through things. But, some people, if the just shopping's kind of their goal, a day, Amana really is probably going to be the main spot where you're probably going to do most of that. If you're more into the culture and wanting to see what the communities are like, driving and going through each of the areas could take a day. I would say 2 to 3 days, probably tops.
Okay, and then once you got to the colonies, is the colonies pretty walkable, or do you need to kind of go to each colony by a vehicle or something?
It's a 17-mile loop.
Okay, I missed that. Okay, you might have said that before. I missed that.
But like the original Amana, that is walkable. Is that correct?
100% walkable.
Okay.
Yes, I just parked and walked the whole area. And then that's how the villages are.
Okay.
Very, very easily walkable because they're small. Amana is the largest.
Okay.
And that one's easily walkable.
So you would have to drive to each colony, so to speak, but then you could get out and walk around the entire colony.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. Gotcha. Okay, well, very cool. Well, let's look at what RV life campgrounds look like. You mentioned the one, and what was the name of the one you just mentioned a minute ago? Campground?
Yeah, I think the Amana Colonies RV Park, I believe.
Yep, that's what I wrote down, the Amana RV Park and Event Center.
Okay, and I should mention, this is worth mentioning, that it's right off of I-80, or not too far off of I-80, I should say. So this could be a stopover on your way going east or west.
Right, which would be a perfect way, because it's only 29 minutes south of the heart of Cedar Rapids.
Yep.
So it's really not far out of the way for folks at all.
Or if you're going to Forest River like we do every
do,
single year,
I feel like we need to stop
you can
here.
stop down there as well. But okay, so I've sorted these. There's 28 in the area of Amana. I was almost going to say Amana again. Amana. The number 1 is coming in at 10 out of 10 stars. Hills Access. This is all the way out in Iowa City, though. It's pulling some pretty far away. That's 21 miles away. We got Morgan Creek, which got 10 out of 10 reviews. That's 12 miles away. We got Taylor Water West Campground, 15 miles away. Linder Point, that's in Iowa City, 9 stars out of 10. Wanatee Park, 9.1 stars. Hanna County. Let's get closer to Amana and see what we get. Distance.
Amana.
So Amana RV Park. Amana.
Amana.
That right?
Amana.
Amana. I'm saying it right now. You're confusing me. So Amana RV Park and Event Center, which is right there in town, is got 8.5 stars out of 10, 306 reviews. And then there's a Middle Amana Community Park, which got 4 stars. I wouldn't recommend that one.
Yeah.
Let's see, FW Kent Park. So there's 28 of them in the surrounding area within a 20, 30-mile drive. So quite a few. If you can't get in one, just look at the other one.
Exactly. And again, it's very close to some larger cities. So if you want to just take a day trip out to Amana, you could do that.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun trip,
It
in my
does.
mind, for like us going out west.
Right.
And we just
Stopping and staying
in
there.
there for a couple days,
dump
unwind.
the tanks, unwind, spend a couple days, and then hit the road again. So, hey, honey, when we head out to Montana this year, guess where we're going?
We'll be going on a different freeway, though.
Listen, you can't do that to me. You can't just put the little nugget out there and then take it away. It's not cool. That's not how this relationship
It's got to be
works.
on the way.
It is on the way. It's right off of I-80.
Yeah, but we're going to be on I-90.
Well, then maybe we need to take I-80.
Oh, my gosh. All the extra money for fuel to
give your wife an amazing moment in time.
So, Carrie, why don't we, as we always do, give you a little bit of time. We've seen that you've been posting a lot on social media. And you've been doing a lot more with your blog and all that. I know last time we talked, you said you need to start beefing that up and being more active with that. And I've seen a dramatic improvement in that, I guess. So,
yay!
And I'm saying that with all sincerity, and because I'm seeing pictures almost posted daily. And of course, Carrie's an amazing photographer. We're glad to have her on. She not only does these podcasts, but she writes for the magazine. So maybe tell us a little bit about what you've got going on with your blog and everything.
Oh my gosh. I've been getting the chance now that I finally have that camper van. I took my first official trip, went up to New York and had a great time just getting a chance to, see how a camper van works. So, that was a little trials and tribulations with a couple of things, which was fun, but no. So it's given me the opportunity, like you said, to really start being able to put some stuff out there of places that I've thoroughly enjoyed. Hopefully, that gives inspiration for other people to get out there and go. I'm working right now on planning my summer trips back into the Midwest. So I have a couple of spots I've been working on there. And hopefully, I can keep getting some things on the blog. And you can check out my website, carriehanrahanphotography.com. I try to put some of my fine artwork on there for people who are, looking for something for their wall, or just, check out the blog and see what I'm up to.
Yes. And do check out her website. I love going out there. I'm literally out there right now looking at your images, and you are just such an amazing photographer. Like amazing. Your pictures are incredible. Love them.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You are welcome. So thank you, Carrie. Thank you for coming on today and sharing with us the top 10 things to do in the Amana Colonies in Iowa. We really appreciate having you on. We always love having you on. You do such a fabulous job with these.
Oh, thanks. I have a blast doing them every time.
Good. Glad to hear it, because you're coming back again. And we want to thank everybody out there for joining us today. And be sure to grab your free PDF copy of the top 10 things to do in the Amana Colonies. And also be sure to get out there and rate, review, and subscribe to or follow the RV Destinations podcast on Apple, Spotify, Audible, wherever you find your podcasts, including
YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe and the bell.
YouTube.
So you're notified.
Right down, but now I'm not doing as weird as a hand gesture as I did last time. It was weird.
Caly talks a lot with her hands.
I do. They're like, and I've got this
now people can see
microphone
it.
here right in the way. So yeah, it's odd. So yeah, don't forget to get out there, find us, like us, follow us. We like that kind of stuff. And then be sure to get out to our website and subscribe to our magazine at rvdestinationsmagazine.com/subscribe. We have print versions, digital versions, and combinations of both. And if you use the code podcast20, podcast20 on checkout, you get 20% off any of our subscriptions. So I am Caly Beheimer here with Randy Beheimer and Carrie Hanrahan, and we want to thank you all for listening today.
Be safe.
Safe travels, y'all.